This is Open Air, a weekly show co-produced by Asheville FM and local groups working to improve the lives of people living in the Asheville area. Opinions expressed on Open Air do not represent Friends of Community Radio or Asheville FM. If your community group would like to produce a series or episode for broadcast on Open Air, email openair@ashevillefm.org.
Good morning and welcome everyone to the Life on Purpose radio show. Life on Purpose is brought to you by a very unique partnership between Asheville FM and Sunrise Community for Recovery and Wellness. Sunrise Community for Recovery and Wellness is a nonprofit staffed entirely by certified peer support specialists who utilize their lived experience to provide authentic peer support, resource navigation, and education to individuals struggling with trauma that often leads to substance use and mental health struggles. You can find out more about Sunrise at www.sunriseinasheville.org. So I am your host, Josh Hampton. We don't have Kevin Mahoney here with us today, but we do have a very special guest from Love and Respect in Hendersonville, North Carolina. We have Alivea. And I will let Alivea tell you more about herself.
I am Alivea. I work for Love and Respect Community for Recovery and Wellness. I am a person in long-term sustained recovery. I have a 4-year-old son whose name is Riot, and I just love people, and I'm really grateful to be here today.
Well, thanks for coming. So what is your role at Love and Respect?
Yeah, so I'm the office manager. I'm also the lead on our outreach team. So we go out into the community and give out necessary items as well as peer support services and make recovery available to all through our outreach program. We are a drop-in center similar to Sunrise. We've got a group schedule, peer one-on-ones, and we're just kind of here for whatever the community needs.
That's awesome. Can you tell me about some of the programs?
Absolutely. So we have a workforce readiness program for individuals who have struggled with substance misuse, mental health, or reentry from incarceration. The purpose of this program is to help individuals find meaningful employment who might have barriers to that. We also have a reentry program. So we are in the local detention centers doing in-reaches with individuals that are incarcerated, as well as coming up with aftercare plans for them. So whatever that means for them, sometimes we're just bringing them a backpack with camping supplies. Sometimes we're finding them long-term housing. But yeah, so that's reentry. And then mobile outreach. We really focus on the underserved with that program. Our whole kind of mission is surrounding the BIPOC population. And we just want to make recovery available for everybody. And so that's the purpose of that program. And then we have groups in the center. So some of those can be deeper than others. Some of them are just like a light art group. But we really like to bring community members into the center just to see people that are in long-term sustained recovery having fun. I know for me,
that's huge.
Yeah, I know for me, like I'm 24. Entered recovery at 19, so I kind of thought that my life was over and that I was never going to have fun again when I entered recovery. So it's important to me to show, especially the younger crowd that comes into the center, that it is possible to have fun. They overhear us talking about our weekend plans and going camping or going to, recovery-related events and things, and I think it's just important to model that. So, yeah, we do. We've got 2 computers in the peer lounge as well. So we help individuals with creating resumes. We teach some people how to write emails if they don't know. We help individuals apply for benefits. We help individuals just stay connected through that program. I think that kind of covers programming.
How beneficial do you feel like peer support is throughout all this?
Oh my gosh, peer support is everything, in my opinion. I know, and I can only speak from my experience, but before I entered recovery, I was sitting in front of a lot of people who had never been through what I was going through, trying to tell me what I needed to do.
Same here.
Yeah. And so and there's still a little bit of defiance in me as a person, but I was a lot more defiant in the active addiction. And it was just, I can remember thinking they don't understand. And I didn't know anything about peer support then. But I think that if a peer support specialist had come to me, I may have entered recovery, at a earlier time than I did. But yeah, I think, on a daily basis, I'm working with participants who might not know anything about this field. And I noticed one time I was working with this younger guy, and he's looking at the ground as he's talking to me. He didn't make eye contact with me the entire time. And he's explaining some of the things that he's going through, and he mentioned a specific substance. And my response was, well, when I was using that specific substance, he immediately looked up from the ground and looked me in my eye for the first time in that entire conversation. And that was just one of the many moments where I was like, what I do matters. And
for sure.
that representation matters. So
Yeah, that's huge to be able to see that day to day when you're at work.
yeah, it is. It's crazy. We see it all the time. And I mean, I think it's also important, just from what I've seen, that I grew up in Hendersonville and I'm working in Hendersonville, because I've walked up on campsites before and women look at me and say, Alivea Turner, I met you in jail. You look great. And I'm like, I entered recovery, and that's how I live now. And I'm a lot happier. And 3 days later, she comes to the center looking for recovery.
Wow.
So I think that not only the lived experience is important, but having people literally see you at rock bottom and then see you now is super powerful as well.
Yeah, seeing, having known where you were at in your active use, and then seeing that huge change, it's inspiring.
Yeah.
That's what inspired me.
Yeah.
Seeing other people in recovery that could share with me how they did it.
Yeah.
And just knowing that it is possible.
Right, because without the individuals who have longer recovery than me, I don't know that I would have seen it as a possibility for me. So, yeah.
How did you find out about peer support? Before you ever got into the field, had you encountered a peer support specialist at some point?
Yeah, so our executive director, actually, he's known me since I was 13. I was first brought to an NA meeting by my ear by one of my family members, and he was there. And it definitely, recovery didn't stick there. I have so many white key tags, I could tile my bathroom with them. But I remember him being there, and I would go back out and go back to the recovery meeting, and he would be there. Yeah. I mean, years in between, and he was just consistently there. And he was one of the one of the many people that I took note of that for years of my active addiction were there and would greet me as if it was my first time again.
Yeah.
And so when I did enter recovery, he and I stayed in touch, and he told me about peer support, and I ended up getting my peer support certification, working with and for him. So he was a really big piece to me getting certified, and he's a big piece to my professional development still. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome to have that type of employment where they're so, they've got your back so much. They just want to see you grow, and then, providing the opportunities for you to grow.
My gosh,
and do something new.
And I mean, just being in a trauma-informed, recovery-oriented workplace has been so detrimental to my recovery, because I mean, people in this field, we always say your job is not your recovery. If you count on it for your recovery, that might not go well for you. And I couldn't agree more, but I will say having a workplace where if I'm triggered at any point during the workday, I have people that are working there too who will jump in. I mean, at this point in the office, everybody kind of knows what makes everybody tick, and so we know without saying anything when we need to step in, and so it's just been really cool to have a supportive work environment.
So we spoke a little bit the other day, and you mentioned you were doing something new at work, that you were kind of dabbling into grant writing, or is it okay if we talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Yeah. So first of all, I just want to say, like, I'm really grateful for the opportunity to learn about stuff like this. I'm 24. I barely graduated high school, and I'm willing to say that on air. Like, I didn't always do well in school. And so you see so many people in this field, grant writers, who have doctorates and masters and all of these things. But I've been learning how to grant write. Shout out to Ron, who is at Love and Respect right now, for helping me, because we're kind of the grant writing team.
Nice.
And yeah, it's been super interesting to learn that side, like just the background piece of the nonprofit world, because I've always seen, outreach and being out in the community, but there's so much work that goes on behind closed doors that people have no idea about. So yeah, just being a part of that, it was really stressful at the center here recently with the grants. Yeah, because it's just grant season. But again, like, everybody at Love and Respect has been so supportive. Our executive director called us to a meeting in the peer living room, and we did like a guided meditation because things were, because Ron and I were just struggling. So yeah, it's been really cool.
Were you were able to like reground, recenter after that meditation?
Yeah, absolutely. And just the staff everybody was really cheering us on. Like, it was, we were hunkering down for hours of the day. And I mean, you have admin coming, and she's like, "Can I get you coffee? Can I warm up your lunch? Like, your phone needs to be charged," like, it's just, everybody was looking out for each other, which has been really, really cool.
I'll say I took a grant writing class last summer, like a continuing ed class, and it in no way, I mean, it did prepare me some, but it in no way prepared me for like the depth of, just being part of writing a grant collaboratively. And so, it's so much more to it than what I even realized.
It's intense. It is intense. And like, our focus is always on serving the community, but in order to do that, you have to do the background work.
That's what it takes.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ron and I have been able to recharge kind of our social batteries and get back to working with people, because when you're grant writing, man, you just have to be in your office, like hunkered down. And Ron and I both really like to outreach. We like to be one-on-one with participants, and we just weren't able to for that period of time, but we've been able to recharge and collect ourselves, I think, since then.
Well, being able to come back to like just engaging with the participants, though, that's huge.
Yeah.
I know some of my role, I'm often doing research or maybe putting a presentation together, but then when I get to connect, I feel like I'm plugged back into what I do, what I love. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
So is it okay if we kind of talk about you being a mom?
Yeah. Oh my God. This is my favorite topic.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, well, that's great. I'm glad I touched on that. So you have a son.
I do. Yeah. I have a son. He is 4 years old. He's an Aquarius, if anybody's into zodiacs here, but, he's just a wild little thing. And I know that my son is what kickstarted my recovery.
Yeah.
I found out that I was pregnant at a not so great point in my life. And when I saw that the pregnancy test was positive, I think I had my first unselfish thought, maybe in my life. And I realized that another person is counting on me. Yeah. And so, they say you can't recover for someone else. It has to be for you. I think in early recovery, it was for him. And then I choose both of us every day since then. He is so energetic. He does great in school. He's learning how to read right now, and it's so fun. I have a very supportive partner as well, who, shares the love that I have for Riot with me, and it's been really powerful. I've been a single mom, for the entirety of his life, so sharing him with someone has been really cool lately.
Yeah.
She's really great with him. And I mean, it's just when I look at Casey's my partner, when I look at Casey and I look at Riot, I'm like, how did I get all of this? Is all I've ever wanted. Like, this is what I cried for in active addiction.
Yeah.
This is exactly what it is. And even like the most mundane days of like, we're just going to the grocery store and making dinner. I'm such a crybaby. My eyes will just like tear up because I'm like, there were times where I was like sleeping outside of the grocery store that we're shopping in right now.
Yeah.
You know, and it's maybe that'll wear off eventually, but like, I'm just so grateful to have a family, to have like, I don't know. It's just really powerful. I don't think that there's anyone more grateful than a recovering addict.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I've always heard a grateful addict will never use.
Yeah.
In the rooms.
Oh, I haven't heard that one. I really like that. But yeah, Riot is my whole life. And he's so incredible. You know, people would tell me when I was younger, I hope you have a kid that's exactly like you. And and they would say that almost as like a dig to me, but now I have a kid who is exactly like me. Like, he's chaotic and he talks back and he's wild and independent and defiant like I was. And I'm like, man, this is the best thing that's ever had. Like, I know that they were saying that to try and like teach me a lesson, but the lesson that I've learned is that like, I'm worthy of love because I love him so much and he is just like me. So yeah.
How many of those traits, you mentioned he was an Aquarius, how many of those traits you just mentioned are Aquarian
all
traits?
Of them.
Do I say that right? Is
yeah,
it
Aquarian. Yeah. All of them are so Aquarian. Oh my gosh, his big three is all three Aquarius. So he is Aquarius through and through, and that makes him just very free-spirited, doesn't care what other people think. He's super inclusive of everyone. Yeah, he's just the coolest little person. I know every parent thinks that about their kid.
Oh, I definitely do think that about my daughter.
Yeah, but it's true, right?
Yeah, no, they are though.
Yeah.
You know?
I think this next generation is like going to be so unstoppable, honestly.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I think there's been so many changes in the world and how we view things and how we view people that, like, you know, your daughter's 6, you said.
Yeah.
My son is 4. I think that by the time they're our age, things will be so different because of them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. So I kind of lost my train of thought.
No,
I can't
good.
remember what I was going to say now.
We're just vibing.
Yeah, for sure. But definitely, I know for me, being a dad, I started out kind of similar to you. Like, that was my reason for, you know, staying in recovery, for remaining abstinent from drugs. And I like to tell people, like, when I hear that, like, you got to recover for yourself. But being a good dad is for me because I get so much of a reward out of just showing up and then being present.
Yeah.
So.
I think like we heal a lot of our own inner child too. Yeah. When we are showing up for our kids. So yeah, I definitely am on the same page as you.
So what's your favorite thing about being a mom? I know you've mentioned a lot of really great things, but if you had to pick one.
I think, that's hard. I think seeing him become a kind human being. And I think that seeing how I talk to him become his self-talk, his inner voice, because I've always been really into like affirmations with him, and I've been very transparent with him at an age appropriate level of like what has happened to me and like what I've struggled with. And I'm always going to be transparent with him about that. But he's so just, his nature is forgiving. And like, that's such a beautiful thing to see in a kid, you know? I was telling you guys earlier, we do like affirmations. And so like I'll have him in the mirror talking to himself and have him say like, I'm strong, I'm, you know, whatever. But But when I'm having a bad day, like we'll be in the car and he'll just pick up a vibe or something, he'll start giving me affirmations.
For real?
Yeah, he'll be like, you're beautiful and you look like a princess and you're so kind. And like, it's just
That's
really
so awesome.
Yeah, it's just so beautiful. And I hope that like that self-talk sticks with him forever, you know?
I mean, you know, I'm not like a child psychologist, but I feel like a lot of it would, because I know there's things from my childhood that even now, you know, I find it difficult not to remember those words, and I may not even realize who said them to me, but it's things that stick with you. So
yeah, absolutely.
If you had to list a superpower, does Olivia have a superpower?
I think probably my ability to connect.
Yeah.
I think that I'm able to walk into any situation with any type of person and I'm able to connect with them somehow. And I think that's a part of, like, they say recovering addicts have lived 2 lives. We get 2 lives. And so I think through that, like, I could walk into a board meeting with a bunch of professionals and end up connecting in some way, just like I would be able to walk into a dangerous neighborhood and be able to connect. Like, I just feel like, living on both sides of the spectrum has given me a way, just to see people for who they are and have them see me for who I am and connect on that level.
So do you feel like it took for you to, you know, progress through recovery or your career before you were comfortable on both sides? Or do you feel like you've just always been able to engage and connect with anybody?
So I think, and this isn't in every, I still am nervous walking into spaces, but that's my self-talk. So I think that in order to like develop and grow in that way, I've had to alter my self-talk. Because if I'm sitting there being like, I don't belong in this room, I don't belong, that's just me. Because I think, like, recently I had a meeting and I was wondering, am I helping or hurting this participant by going with them? Because I'm covered in tattoos, I have dyed hair.
Oh yeah, we talked about
this is what we talked about. Yeah, and I was just like, like, I don't know if me going and advocating for her in this moment is going to help her case, because the individuals in the room may judge me and
Right.
You know what I mean? But I ended up going and everyone had questions for me. Everyone was so accepting of me. You know, there were no moments in that meeting where I felt like I didn't belong. And so on the way home from that, I called a colleague and I was like, it went fine. And they were like, I knew it would. And I'm like, why? And they're like, because that was just you, like, not being kind to yourself. Like, it had nothing to do with the people that were going to be in that room. And honestly, it was unfair to them. And I'm like, you're right. Like, that is so true. So yeah, I think, like, I'm constantly evolving and growing in this field. And I will never say that I know everything.
Well, we're always learning. Like,
yeah, but I think it definitely has developed and grown through my experience. And it, like, even just today, coming here and doing this, like, I'm growing right now. God, I'm, like, still shaking.
You're doing great, though.
Thank you. And I was so nervous, and I'm always nervous before, like, public speaking.
Oh, me too.
But afterwards, I'm like, God, I'm glad I did that. Like, I'm glad I pushed myself. Because if I just stayed in my office all day writing grants, then I probably would never grow, you know?
Right.
So yeah.
You know, I've found that, especially here, like within the past year, I've gotten the most benefit from uncomfortable situations and intentionally putting myself in these situations. But I've had a real desire to grow, especially in the area of, you know, like being on this radio show, speaking in public. I definitely wasn't as nervous this time coming in here as I have been in the past. And I think that's, you know, a lot of the credit for that goes to the fact that I've just been continually putting myself in situations where I'm in front of people, I'm speaking, there's that level of vulnerability because like, oh, if I mess up, just realizing it's not the end of the world and probably nobody's going to realize if I mess up or not. They don't know what's on a script. They don't know what's in a presentation, but.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the growth, right? Is like, you're not as anxious today as you were the first time you came. And that's where the growth is.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think that's really cool. I'm glad we're kind of the same that way. It's nerve-wracking sometimes.
I try this, it's a trick. I've heard that your mind cannot tell the difference between being nervous and excited.
Yeah.
So if you're feeling nervous and you just keep repeating, I'm excited, or think, to yourself, and this actually worked to an extent. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So,
wow. I like that. I'm going to steal that.
Yeah. You can still, I think it's public information. You don't have to steal it.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, awesome. I will.
So I've got all these questions wrote down. I'm trying to look for something that's good. We've kind of deviated off.
I know. I love conversations like that, though. They're the best type.
Just organic, just real.
Yeah.
So we've talked about peer support. Did we talk about what peer support means to you? Did we?
Yeah.
Did we ask that? Okay, so if somebody listening today to this radio show is thinking about maybe peer support is the career, is the field I want to go in, what advice or just what information do you think would be helpful? What would you like to say to someone who is considering becoming a peer support specialist?
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is do it. Just do it. If you have that lived experience and you meet the criteria for peer support, just do it. If you never use it, that's fine. You still learned about boundaries and self-care and learned about networking in this field. I would say be intentional about where you place yourself in this field. Make sure that you're going to work somewhere that fits into your niche and what you're passionate about, because the passion for this work is what drives us.
Yeah.
And it's about helping people. So ask yourself, who do I want to help? What is the target population? Because I work for an organization that our primary focus is the BIPOC community. And I'm exactly where I need to be,
Yeah.
And I think there are organizations that help specifically with veterans. There are organizations that help specifically with individuals who have experienced interpersonal violence. And so find your niche in this field and find where you're going to be passionate. Because if you're not, the only person that suffers is the individuals that we serve. Right. So, yeah, but I would just say do it. I'm so glad I took that leap. I was in the middle of COVID when I got my peer support certification. It was all online. I didn't have Wi-Fi where I was. I didn't have access to a laptop. So I borrowed one from a friend and I posted up at Panera every single day. And I had, my mom was watching Riot, who was 1, I guess, at the time. And I just did it. It was in the heat of a pandemic. There wasn't anything else to do. I didn't know if I would even be employable in this field. I just went ahead and did it. And I'm so glad that I did, because it's changed my life in so many ways. It's been really important for my character development to be doing this work and find myself through this work. So, yeah.
Yeah, I can relate to feeling that way for sure.
Yeah.
How long have you been a peer support specialist?
I just had to recertify for the first time. So it's been over 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was cool. It was cool to have my first recertification, and I went and got my first aid and CPR certifications again, because that lapses every 2 years, I think. Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so... But I love the concept of going back and doing it again. I love to keep stuff fresh on my mind. I know when I started, there were resources or tools that I used that I kind of trail off from, and being brought back to them is super useful as well. Yeah.
You know, we were talking about, or you were mentioning like finding, you know, the part of peer support you're passionate about, finding somewhere where you really feel like you fit in. I recently, well, not recently, like within the past 7 or 8 months, I took on a new role at Sunrise with the problem gambling program.
Yeah.
And I did not immediately think that I was going to love that direction as much as I do.
Yeah.
But the more research I did, the more I spoke to people, I realized not only did I find out that I had more of a gambling problem than what I realized during my active addiction, but it really brought back for me the importance of that just one-on-one connection. You know, there's not like a specific thing or a need that we're meeting for the individuals in this program outside of resource navigation, but then that connection, that one-on-one, I have found that has been like the most appreciated, the most valued, I don't want to say service, but for lack of a better word, you know, the most valued and appreciated service that has been received by our participants.
Yeah. I could see that. I was thinking about your role on the way here because I was like, that would be a difficult role. But I think that another thing that you bring with what you're working is awareness. Like, you just coming to love and respect and like giving our staff a training. Like, we weren't aware of so many of the things that you covered. And like, unless you go through problem gambling yourself firsthand, you may not know how similar it is to substance use, addiction, mental health. So, yeah, I think you're killing it, and I think you're doing a lot more than... I think you're doing a lot more than you realize with that. Because, I mean, just after you left, like, our whole staff was really energized and felt like we had gotten a lot from it, so...
Well, that's great. Like, I get good feedback, you know, but maybe going back to, like, that imposter syndrome or something like that, I'm always too hard on myself, or I'm like... am I really the person to be doing this? And that imposter syndrome hits heavy with me a lot.
Me too.
You know, just going different places to give a presentation, or I've just recently got involved with the National Speakers Association for Western North Carolina. And I mentioned to you earlier, you know, being there representative of a nonprofit that's not the typical individual who's in the Speakers Association, but it's been a great opportunity for development, and it's really helping me not only to be more comfortable with public speaking, but you know, to kind of let go of that imposter syndrome and realize like it's okay if I don't fit, you know, the profile of everyone else in here. And, so
I think that's awesome. Imposter syndrome is hard. I struggle with it as well. It'll be like, my brain will be like, everybody's going to find out. And I'm like, find out what? Like, there's nothing to find out. And my brain's like, I don't know, but they are. And it's just this constant thing. I think it comes from a lot of like the things that I did in active substance misuse. You know, because I always felt like I was going to get caught then. And
for sure.
I mean, you see a cop on the side of the road and you're like, here I go.
Yeah,
like,
I still tense up. I'm like,
I do too. And I think that's, we trained our bodies to not trust ourselves, right? Like, I have like a physical reaction when I see a police officer on the side of the road still. And I'm like, I am in long-term recovery. Like, haven't had anything in my car in years, but I'm still, it's just my body's reaction. And I think that I do that in times of trusting myself as well. I don't know. It's just something that I think I'll experience for a while, but that like self-awareness has helped me a lot. You know, I do like our payroll for the organization.
Okay.
And I do like our money handling. And so I'll literally be like writing a check and I'm like, who let me do this?
Right.
Like, why, how am I allowed to do this?
Do they know who's got their hands on this money?
Exactly. And it's like, but I am a law abiding, like functioning member of society now. It is.
Yeah.
It really is. It is insane. I'd never thought that I would be in a position to be doing those things ever. I didn't think that I would ever be able to do that without just making a terrible choice. And so like, but that's also another thing. Like, we're given a lot of trust in this field.
Yeah.
You know,
that is huge. It's been huge for my growth.
Me too. Yeah. Cause like no one trusted me when I was actively using, and now I'm in this field and I can text my boss and be like, I'm going to be out in the field today. Yeah. And like, he just trusts that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And the beautiful part is I am.
Isn't that's crazy too, right?
Yeah, it is. So I think like retraining that self-talk out of myself has been one of my biggest, like hurdles in this field. Because I still sometimes talk to myself like I am in active substance misuse. So yeah.
It takes a lot of time to break away from that stuff, but
yeah,
progress, not perfection, right?
Absolutely.
I hear that in meetings all the time. So.
Yeah.
I about forgot this one. So, do you have a favorite quote that helps you through tough times?
Yeah. So, gosh, I'm trying to figure out which one to pick. I think the one that I like most is that experience is not what happens to you, it's what you do with what happens to you.
Wow, that's deep.
Yeah, I really like that one. Because I can talk about things that I did and things that happened to me all day long, but that's just at the hands of someone else. But when I talk about what I did with that, I mean, that's what peer support is all about, really. And working in this field and being a person with lived experience, it's just doing something with all that pain and hurt and shame and guilt. I like jokingly say that I'm paying off my karmic debt by being a peer support specialist, because I mean, like, I drive down the road and I used to be like, oh, I used there. Oh, like I picked up there. Oh, I did this there. Yep. And now I'm able to drive down those same roads and be like, oh, I did outreach there. Yeah. Like, oh, I gave a participant a ride there and they were able to get their license. You know, I'm rewriting that narrative of where I've been and what happened there. And so I think that that's just has been a really cool thing. And it's something that I'm doing with my experiences so that they're not all for nothing. Yeah. Because, you know, if all those nights that I had cried, all those nights in the ER, all those nights in jail, if those had been for nothing, what? Like, no, I'm going to make something of those experiences. And I'm going to take that and provide hope for someone else. Yeah. And like, that's just been the coolest thing for me. So yeah, that's my quote.
Awesome. I can definitely relate too. Like, I'm so grateful that, like you said, all those nights, all that time that I considered wasted time, you know, I used to catch myself a lot saying, oh, I wasted all of my 20s. Yep. And, but it wasn't for nothing. Yeah. You know, I wouldn't be as qualified for this position had I not, quote unquote, wasted so much time. And just to be able to give purpose, and, you know, as humans, I feel like we're always trying to find the meaning behind something or figure it out. But to know, like, for me, it has a meaning, you know, it happened for a reason. And I do believe, like, that reason was so I can give back and share with someone the road that I took. Absolutely. And all the roads that I took that I got turned around on. Yeah.
Yeah. I wish that it didn't have to involve so much pain and heartache. Right. But it did. And that's life. And that's what a lot of people are going through right now that we see on a daily basis that we could help. So yeah, I think that's really powerful.
Yeah. Until I met my first peer support specialist, I thought I was doomed to forever either sell drugs and live that thug life, either continue with that, and I would be dead or in prison right now. I wouldn't be here. Or that I could get a job and it would be nothing that I wanted to do because my criminal record was so long that nobody's ever going to hire me. I'm unhireable and I've just got to accept whatever's out there. And I was in jail. One of the many times I've been in jail, and I met a peer support specialist in booking. Yeah. And they shared with me that that's okay. Like, your rap sheet can be part of your resume.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And for the first time in a long, long time, like, I had just the tiniest bit of hope. Yeah. And that, you know, I didn't get it together right away, but knowing that, you know, there was an option for me, and that there could be some meaning behind all the pain and all the struggle. I don't know that I'd be here now if I didn't have that little bit of hope that I got that day.
Yeah, I think what that peer support specialist did that day is planted a seed, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And so even though you didn't see that growth immediately when you got out or even for years, like it was growing. Yeah. And I think that planting seeds is like the number one thing that we do, right? Yeah. Like it's saying, if you're not ready now, that's okay. Here's a place and a person you can go to when you are. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've supported an individual for the past like 2 years, and he's given me permission to share a little bit about his story. Okay. But I supported him for about 2 years, and he immediately took to me. You know, we saw each other a couple times a week, and he was in active use and had no interest in getting clean. You know, I don't think that he ever wanted recovery. So for years, he would come and see me, and we would talk about safer ways to use. We would talk about just what was going on in his life. And I would always say, "You ready for recovery yet?" Because I knew he had it in him. I could just see it in him. Yeah. And after 2 years of that, you know, meeting him exactly where he was, being there for him in the way that he needed, he came to my office, and he had just gotten out of a short-term incarceration. He had walked all the way from the detention center to my office, walked in and said, "I'm ready, but it needs to be now." Yeah. And so we made it happen. He's in, you know, recovery housing. He's doing really well. He's employed. Like we went to see him recently, and we're just so proud of him. But it's that seed that we planted 2 years prior to that moment, you know? And so like, we don't always see it immediately. But we've been open about 3 years now, a little under 3 years. And we're starting to see the seeds that we planted at the beginning growing. And
isn't that great?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, that participant and we went out for lunch with another one of Love and Respect employees, and we were just like, who would have thought that we would be here? Yeah. You know, like it's just so cool. And we're seeing more and more of it. Just folks coming in and wanting treatment and it's such an honor for someone to decide recovery and come and see you, like you specifically, your organization, for them to choose that, because they could go anywhere else.
But have that trust.
Exactly. And to feel like it's a safe enough place to explore options like that. I just think it's such an honor to be a part of someone else's story, whether they do enter recovery or not. Like, I just think it's beautiful. I think we were doing our strategic plan like last year, and we got participant surveys. So the individuals that we serve were all asked questions anonymously, and we got their feedback anonymously. And one of the statements that was made on this survey was, I've been chased off from everywhere else I've gone this week, like a dog. Mm. And then I came to Love and Respect, and everyone here is showing me love. And I just think that, like, we don't know what happens to them before they walk in our door. Right. Like, they could have been chased off like a dog. They could have, you know, gosh, you just never know. But then for them to walk in after that and be in a place where we're like, do you want coffee? Are you hungry?
Yeah, and treating them like a human. Can I get you anything?
Right. And it's like, that was probably the most impactful things I've ever heard from a participant, because it really did put it in perspective. Like, they are dealing with real life things that I used to deal with before they walk in here. And just because I live in this bubble of recovery, like, those things are still happening out there. So yeah, that was really cool to see. I forgot what the question was. I'm like on a ramble.
No, I'm glad you elaborated so much on that. Yeah. I'm not sure if there was a question.
I don't know either. Yeah, we're vibing.
We're talking imposter syndrome, and it got turned and flipped a bunch of ways. But
well, I like it.
I was talking about the PGAM program, I think, and then
okay, that's what it was.
We ended up in a great place, though the journey was amazing. Right? It's not really about where you get. Is that what they say? It's not about where you're going, but...
No.
Is that not it? It is about where you're going, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe, but also how you get there.
Okay, yeah.
unless you're just driving in circles, and then
it doesn't matter either way.
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay, that's my new quote now.
Nice.
Yeah,
we got some new quotes out of this today, Josh.
Yeah. I was trying to think of, I don't want to say this is a quote, but I'm going to paraphrase a quote.
Okay.
I think it's from Mark Twain, and it's like, there's no such thing as a new idea. We simply take old ideas, give them a turn, and they become new and curious combinations. I think I did just quote it word for word.
Yeah, I think that was right. I read that on your Sunrise interview today. So, yeah, I love that.
That really helped me a lot, especially like coordinating this problem gambling program and like trying to come up, just really trying to brainstorm and feeling like, I definitely have support. Like my leadership is extra supportive. Peers at Sunrise. I think this is my phone. But, just being like, it's just me and trying to figure out new ways to reach a new population.
Yeah.
And then I read that quote one day and I was like, maybe I can just pull from what other people are doing. I don't have to come up with something spectacular. I can make it, our own.
Yeah, absolutely. Gosh, I love that. I do that on a daily basis. Like, reach out to other organizations and see how they do it, see what they do, because I don't know everything, and we're a newer nonprofit, and so, what we don't know within our staff, another organization does.
Yeah.
And that's just such a beautiful thing to have.
Kind of goes back to lived experience in a way, in a sense, experience.
Yeah, it definitely is. I just love being in a community where like we can lean on each other, and give each other feedback and advice, and like just have that, I think like even outside of love and respect, I have such a supportive environment with community partners. And I just think that's awesome as well. But yeah.
Yeah, it seemed like a really good vibe when I was up there.
Yeah.
It seemed real chill. Y'all, it kind of had that family feel to it.
It definitely is. And like the peer living room is great for participants, but also staff. Like I have my office, but I often will walk and just sit in the peer living room with everybody and work in there because it really does feel like a family. Within staff and with participants as well.
Yeah. And so Sunrise has been in the process. We have our new location. Yes. I'm so excited for us to open. We don't have a date for our
I was
opening.
about to ask.
But yeah, so just having that space, like whether I'm on my computer and have my headphones in because it's, noisy and I need to concentrate, or I've got downtime and I'm just there, connecting with peers or staff.
Yeah.
I really missed that. And I'm so excited to have that place to come back to, that not command center is not the right word, but the home base. That's it. Yeah, the home base.
Yeah. I love that. You guys are in such a great location too. And I think that it's just going to help a lot of people. You guys have all been working remotely?
Yeah, for the most part. We have an office location, but I think, I usually work from home or out in the field. Yeah. And then I might be at the office. Yeah. Every now and then. But it's kind of got the vibe that the living room has. But, peers, it's just for office, just for staff. So there's no peers up there. Yeah.
Well, I think, like, I've seen y'all's locations change a few times, and it only gets better. Yeah. Like, it genuinely only gets better every time I've seen you guys move. It's only a better location, more space, more fitting for the population. Like, I think that y'all have done a really great job with that and making it feel homey and welcoming. So, yeah.
Well, anyway, I'm excited about that.
I'm excited for y'all.
We've got a few minutes. I think we hit all these points here. Yeah. I don't know. What would you like to talk about for a couple minutes? Anything you would like to share? Any aspect of your role as a peer support specialist that you feel like is important to share that we didn't touch on?
Oh my gosh. When someone asks me a question, I forget all things I've ever thought.
I've got a question.
Okay.
So if somebody wanted to be involved or participate with any of the programs at Love and Respect, what would they need to do?
Thank you for asking that.
Yeah.
That is something that I should have mentioned. Yeah. So if they're in Henderson County, they can just drop in. We have the
Okay.
drop-in center, no appointment needed. We're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. So they can just walk right in and immediately start receiving services.
Awesome.
If they're not local to Henderson County, they can check out our website. It's Love and Respect, Community for Recovery and Wellness.org. And we have our group schedule. We have some hybrid meetings for individuals
Okay.
if they want to like log on and do it virtually. We have all of our programming. We have support forums for each individual program that goes to the individual who works that program. So for workforce readiness, it'll send a message directly to Ron from that
Okay.
area of our website. We also have our background on there, the history of Love and Respect, what got Lexi, our executive director here, working on what he's working on now. So yeah, get connected virtually, get connected in person. Sometimes you'll see us out in the community handing supplies out. Come and say hi. We love to see people. We love to connect. Just shoot us an email.
Okay.
Give us a call. It's whatever way the individual would benefit from the most.
Right.
And so if they just want a number that they can call where they can talk to a nice person about what they're going through, like that's us. If they need socializing and being in person, they can come to the center and we'll provide them with all of those services. And also, if there's anyone listening or you guys could think of that the community might need that we don't already have, let us know. Participant and community member feedback is everything for us.
Yeah.
It's how we've developed every single one of our programs, is individuals telling us that there's a need that we don't see yet. And so if there's anything that anyone does need that we don't provide, we can develop that. So yeah.
That's the best way to get input is from the community or the people that are actually utilizing the services.
Right. And I
Because they
think,
know, right?
yeah. And I think like after being in recovery for so long, we don't ever forget, but we're in this bubble of recovery.
Yeah.
So we don't necessarily remember all of the things that we needed during active substance misuse, during the times we were struggling with our mental health, or during times of incarceration. So yeah, we're all about feedback.
So are you coming to our peer support conference in June?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think I'm so excited about that. I've been seeing you guys' posts and it looks awesome.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening to the Life on Purpose radio show brought to you by Sunrise and Asheville FM. I look forward to not seeing y'all, but I look forward to the next time we can
Thank you.
connect.